Good morning, friends. It's Bob again, bringing you another reflection on forgiveness and forgiving. Now, just in case you're trying to figure out why is he talking about this so much, there's something about immersing ourselves in this kind of thinking and this kind of truth that over time, it softens us up. And it's something that if we give our time to more and more and more and more, if we give attention to it, it will have its freedom effect on us. That's the whole point. Now, yesterday I talked about finding freedom from these actually heinous things that have been done to us, these evil things done, let's just call it what it is, these evil things that have been done to us that have left a giant mark on us. And that maybe there are these things that are deeply in secret with you, but they have left a mark on you, and you are, and many of us are trying to live in a way that sort of is like I can't even deal with this, and I got to leave this, somehow over here, even though it's a part of your life. I want to say to you this morning that you do not have to live under the specter of that. You do not have to live in the light of that and let that define your reality. Now, back in Boston years ago, we were doing a conference, and forgiving was part of this conference that we were doing together. And it was toward the end of the conference, a guy comes up to me. He's a kind of an artsy type of guy. That's his personal affect was kind of more artsy, and he just said, I just my dad, is now a Christian, and but he did some really heinous things to me when I was young, and I couldn't really quite make it out what it was. And so a friend of mine and I, we took him over. It was at our church back in Boston, and we took him over into the nursery room and said, what happened? And he said that actually his dad was a Marine, and that he's this sort of artsy guy. And his dad, when he was a kid, often would put a gun to his head and say, "I'm going to kill you, you little faggot." And it absolutely just terrorized his life. It defined his life for so long. So we said, well, let's help you work through forgiveness. And so he just started to kind of eke it out, sort of like I did when I talked about this empty chair idea. He sort of just eked it out, "Dad, you really hurt me," and these different kind of things. And I said, so I just put one of these corrugated like cardboard bricks that sometimes kids play with that are really light and everything. I put one of those in the center of the floor, and I said, why don't you just give that a swack? And so he gave it a pretty hard swack, and the brick I thought would give, it didn't give at all. And so he hits this thing, and then he's like, "Ah!" And he just absolutely went berserk in the room. He grabbed all of the stuffed toys that were in there, started ripping the heads and the limbs off of them and everything, and screaming at his dad and just almost frothing at the mouth. He was so violent. All this stuff that was inside of him, this violence that was inside of him, started to erupt outside of him. And there is like suspended in the air, just tiny particles of the innards of all these stuffed animals in the nursery and everything. And this goes on for an hour, and he's screaming and yelling and crying and screaming and yelling and crying. Finally, after an hour, he just plopped down on the floor, just fell down into a puddle of tears. And we came alongside of him there and just said, so now it's time actually for us to start to forgive. And we led him through choosing to forgive his dad now for these evil things that his dad did. And this young man who had these heinous things happen to him was able to find this freedom by getting all of this stuff out of him. And now it no longer had sway. It no longer had this defining influence in his life. And he was able to actually find the freedom to be who he was. And the hard thing was that his dad had like an Apostle Paul type of conversion experience. So his dad wasn't even the same person in the present tense that he was back when he was holding a gun to his kid's head. But he was this man who was humble and loved Jesus, but the son was just not able to access any kind of relationship with his dad because of that. And that actually paved the way to start restoring a relationship with his dad and to start finding the freedom of forgiveness. That's the power of what I'm suggesting, that this empty chair type of a dynamic of in these big things that we have in our lives that are so defining, that if we go with this route, this practical route of forgiving from the heart, but getting all of this junk that's inside of us out, that we will find forgiveness in doing it. God can help you forgive even with these monumental, heinous, evil things that have happened in your life. And he wants you to find that freedom so that those things no longer define you. They have no more defining power. I love you. I'm with you in this. Thanks for joining me today. God bless you.